I couldn't make up my mind for a long time, but I still took the risk of telling my story. I'm 38 years old. I have a wife, Katya, who's 32 years old, but we're not talking about her, and I want to talk about my own mother-in-law with whom I had a very unpleasant story. Strength. I'm at home, 52 years old, but she looks the same age as her daughter, hand on heart, and I can even say that she looks better, although this is not very decent in relation to my wife. My mother-in-law is such an attractive woman that absolutely everyone around her notices it. She has an excellent figure, long thick chestnut hair styled in a beautiful hairstyle and always elegant, discreet makeup that only emphasizes all the advantages of a truly young and beautiful face. She constantly dresses in beautiful business suits or an elegant dress. In any case, clothes always emphasize her thin appearance, waist and all the advantages of her figure. Such an unrealistically beautiful woman may not have many admirers. Naturally, she has a rather eventful personal life. Since 10 years ago her husband died, and that's it. Not only in appearance, she is a smart, educated and interesting person. There is always something to talk about. That when she came to visit us with her wife, I loved to talk to her the whole evening over a cup of tea. In general, she has long since begun to interest me greatly just as a woman, and I'm okay with that. I couldn't help it. As soon as she started having boyfriends, I realized that I was starting to be jealous of her. Over the years, my wife began to move away from me, take more care of the children and myself about our relationship, and I no longer cared as much as usual, which is why what seemed to be for I had very strange ideas. I decided to bring them to life. I decided to hit on my mother-in-law, so I needed to muster up the courage and try to make the first attempt at rapprochement that day. I knew for sure that my mother-in-law would come before my wife returned from work. It's a long way to her house, so it's a long way to go home. Then there was no point in going back to her daughter, and she decided to wait for my wife right here with us, and I decided to use this moment and invited her to drink tea as usual. After that we sat down at the table and began to chat nicely. I gave her a few compliments which she ignored. Naturally, that I didn't like it, but I couldn't do anything about it. I continued to insist on my point and sat down closer to her, because when I got up to put sweets for tea, I deliberately sat on the chair that had previously been between us. Such a sharp reduction in the distance between us, and clearly didn't like it. The conversation became more tense, but in order not to embarrass the woman, I leaned back in my chair, thereby increasing the distance. I couldn't even imagine how it would end. I took advantage of the freed up space and after a few minutes finished our what clearly seemed to be an unpleasant conversation. After that she just got up and left, said that she had urgent matters, issues with her daughter, she could solve it later. Well, for some reason I didn't take this as my male defeat. I wanted to prove it to myself and she that I can be better than any of her suitors. The next attack was planned a few days after what happened on Saturdays. My wife likes to go for a manicure and to the gym for fitness. This is the time to leave the children with their grandmother. She also loves her grandchildren very much and refuses me sitting with them is in the order of things. That day I bought the children a new expensive toy that will definitely occupy them all this time. And so it happened. Everything came, but the children did not pay attention to her. Then she went into the kitchen to take a break from the road and drink tea, and of course, I couldn't miss such a moment and followed her, and I decided to act right away. So I just said that I'll do everything myself and put my arm around her waist. She obviously didn't like this kind of movement. She rushed to the door and quickly closed it. She probably didn't want our conversation or the children heard something else, which I can fully understand. How I prepared for further development. I thought that now she would hug me and press a passionate kiss on my lips or do something else like that. How wrong I was. She still came up to me with a look of fury, a bull who approaches a stupid matador in the arena, and said that she has been noticing my lustful glances for a long time and trying to interest her. She said that she already has plenty of male attention and she will not let me ruin her daughter's life if she ever finds out that I cheated on her with someone. The same person will collect all the documents for the court, hire the best lawyer in the city, take everything away from me and even achieve a complete ban on seeing my children. And she also added that if such antics are repeated again, then she will hit me with his own hands. The wish and touch I immediately lost at the end of this vivid monologue. I will receive such a powerful slap in the face that its ringing filled the kitchen. Fortunately in the next room it was loud, the TV was on and the children didn't hear anything. All that was left for me was to apologize, and at first I wanted to somehow get out of it. But what's the point if she already understands everything? I would only look like an even bigger idiot. I apologized to her and said that this won't happen again. Well, this turned out to be not enough. She said that I know exactly when she comes to us, that we simply don't see a better future for us. I didn't want to, but I agreed, and what was left for me was nothing at all. That's why I decided to go right, and since then we decided not to see each other anymore. It was far from what I expected, and I didn't think that this sweet woman could tell me off so harshly. I began to respect her even more. It's good, even though I didn't tell my wife, but I was afraid that it would be exactly like this. How can I say that this situation became a serious lesson for me? He wants his wife's mother because you'll get it in the face before you threaten the wagon. The wife came and saw that her mother was not at home. But a strange red typo appeared on my face. I was lucky that she was in a good mood. She didn't connect these two events in any way. We began to live with her as before. Not in any way. Not my mother-in-law gives me peace in the sense of hitting on her anymore. Of course I won't, but for some reason they still don't think. Maybe it's because no one has ever treated me like that before, or maybe because I think that we could have something. It turns out that a year has passed since that moment and the passions have subsided. The wife, as before, didn't guess anything. Thanks to the mother-in-law for not betraying me with my stupid tricks. Now I've decided that I will never look at other women, although I've been here before. I can't argue as well as adhere to our agreement and see my wife and our children only when I'm not at home. To be honest, it's even for the best because I'm not ashamed of what happened. I wouldn't want to see again the woman who was partly the culprit of what was happening. And perhaps she herself. We paid too much attention during our conversations. Sometimes it even seemed to me that she was giving me some signs and hinting at something. But now I realized that it was solely my desire to pass off what I wanted as something that was actually not for anyone I want to be in. My situation that saved my marriage was my mother-in-law, who turned out to be smarter than me and my wife. We still live well, but my conscience torments me. I don't know. Maybe one day the day will come and I'll tell her about what I did, and not only about this. I'm not ready for this and I want to preserve what we created together for a long time. I realized that my mother-in-law was just an attraction, and it's good that she didn't succumb to my advances and didn't let me make one of the biggest mistakes.